How you, as a public speaking instructor in your college or university, conceive your sequence of speeches may differ from how I have seen my sequence of speeches here at Clover Park Technical College. I think this is particularly evident with respect to the speech activity that I have the students engage in second in the course. As I mentioned earlier, the purpose of sequencing these speeches is to provide steadily more challenging activities for the students to engage in. The first speech, as I mentioned previously, was a speech about a significant individual to the students. Most students have no difficulty deciding on someone significant. Once in a long time, someone will say, well, nobody's significant to me except myself. In which case I will say, well, introduce yourself then for 2 to 4 minutes. This doesn't happen very often. Anyway, after this first sort of icebreaker speech is completed, and I might mention again that speech number 1 is ungraded, we move on to a graded speech, which I call the demonstration/instruction speech. There are many kinds of demonstration instruction speeches. For our purposes, this is a 5 to 7 minute graded speech. That means it can be as short as 4.5 minutes, as long as 7.5 minutes. It, by its very nature, has to be something in which the students are physically active. They have to do something. I have a handout and sample videos. I give a demonstration of my own of the demonstration/instruction speech so that by the time they start preparing their outlines for this speech, they really ought to know that yes, it is a doing something kind of speech. In your academic environment, you might feel that doing something like this is too challenging or is somehow premature for your students early in the quarter or in the semester. I certainly understand and respect that. I've spoken to people who have said that they are astonished that I would have students work with manipulatives so early in the course. Part of the reason that I do this so early in the course at Clover Park Technical College is that because we're a technical college, our students are used to dealing with manipulatives. And in the days when we used to talk about learning styles, most of them, I think a much higher percentage than you might find in other institutions, would identify themselves as kinesthetic learners. So they don't fear, they do not shy away from working with their hands and doing something. They actually welcome this. Now, there are 2 kinds of demonstration/instruction speeches, at least. The 2 kinds that I've dealt with over the years have been one in which I simply tell the students, demonstrate anything you want that you know how to do. I give them a format, I give them an outline to follow, or an outline form to follow, and I show them examples from the past. I say, you may demonstrate whatever you want. So this might mean demonstrating fixing something, building something, playing a game, repairing, I mentioned that, repairing something. It might involve showing how something works. It might be playing a musical instrument. It could be anything that the student knows how to do and wants to show other people how to do. On the other hand, another subcategory of the demonstration/instruction speech would be the speech in which I ask the students to demonstrate something that is done in a culture other than their own. In the past, this has meant that some students have shown how to play a game that was from a culture other than their own. I had a student once who showed how a dreidel is used. This was a non-Jewish student. I had a student who didn't know much about lariats and lassos, who brought someone in to show how to use a lariat for trick dancing or trick mechanisms, trick activities. And I've had students, of course, who would come in and demonstrate how to cook something from a culture other than their own, or make a handicraft from a culture other than their own. The purpose of that kind of speech obviously is to help the students themselves become more aware of some of the elements and manifestations of culture, and also for the students in the audience to become aware of these manifestations and realities of other cultures. One kind of one kind of speech that students often choose for the demonstration/instruction speech is something in which they make food or demonstrate how to make food. I have a refrigerator in my office. You may not have a refrigerator at your disposal, but I have a refrigerator, I have a microwave, I have a little electric hot plate, I have plenty of electrical outlets, I have pots and pans, I have plastic cutlery from the optional culminating educational social experience, which I'll talk about later. So it's not too hard for students to, for instance, come into class the day before they're going to show how to bake something or otherwise cook something, and they can keep their materials in the refrigerator and use the microwave right before the speech or even during the speech if they have a confederate to help them. So, with respect to food making demonstrations, I do tell the students that if they decide to demonstrate how to make food, they need to provide samples of the food that they make for all the students in the class. I also explain to them that if there's a step in the process of making the food which they cannot complete because it takes too much time in the real world, then they can leave that step out and simply talk about it. So if they have a cake or a jello or some kind of confection or something in the refrigerator here, or perhaps under their table where they're speaking, they can say step 1 is to gather the ingredients, step 2 is to combine them, step 3 is to put them in the oven for 45 minutes, which they don't do, and step 4 is to serve the dish, at which point they pass out the samples to the rest of the class. I tell the students that it's important for them, and you know this, it's important for them to time their demonstration/instruction speeches carefully, and also to clean up quickly, to prepare quickly, because this speech may take longer than any of the others in terms of the accoutrements and the preparation and the cleanup that are required to make it possible. The demonstration/instruction speech historically has been a really popular speech with the students. Often at the end of the term, they will say this was their favorite speech, not without exception, but it's a good way, I think, as a first graded speech to give students a chance to show themselves and also to do something that they feel confident about.